Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
welcome
everybody.
back.
Welcome back to Wicked Honest True Crime Fridays. Um, I'm back from vacation.
Me too.
Yeah,
So you'll
we have
be
a
able to hear us, hopefully.
maybe. It's still not great,
Yeah.
but we'll still disappear maybe. But we haven't done the green screen. We haven't done anything. But whatever.
Oh, I'm still here. Try to disappear. So as you guys know, hopefully by this point, if you don't, you need to go back and start watching from the beginning. But we are breaking down, and I wouldn't even say breaking down, but just discussing the Sue Taraskowitz case, as we have been now for a while. Diane, why don't you speak to what we're doing today? Actually, why don't you do your disclaimer since we
Yeah. So a few things. I mean, I've had a really busy day. I've talked to and I'll talk to you guys. I'm not sure. I don't think we'll have time in this show, but I talked to Sean Melvin. He was one of the investigators on the case early on, and we had like 3 hour conversation today, which was it was great when you can just like spitball back and forth and trigger some memories and everything. So I have just sticky notes everywhere, and I we have a planned show with our favorite. Well, I don't want to say favorite because we have another officer. We have Nunzio Orlando that comes on, but Joe. I don't want to insult him, but our
Joe's our original.
Joe's our OG Revere police officer. Joe Rizzuti is back today, and we're going to go over really cool and interesting. I don't know if you guys remember from a previous episode where I had two there were two witnesses, airport employees at the time at Northwest, that said to me when after Sue died and they were being spoken to by Mass State Police and the officer, Mass Trooper Red McDonald, and I'm going to bring him up in I think the next episode again when we go over Sean with Sean. He's been a bit controversial in this case, and I'll get into more of why. But it was said that John Connolly was there, and we all know John Connolly was the anyone from around this area affiliated with Whitey Bulger, and when he was a corrupt federal agent that seemed to be in the pocket of Bulger, but then some. He was supposed to be Bulger's handler, but Bulger, I think they say, handled him, and then he went to jail for murder and other things. So that was really interesting when hearing John Connolly was at the airport, and he had retired. I believe it was 2 years earlier. And if you recall from a previous episode, when I did a FOIA request about this to the feds, very specific, any notes regarding John Connolly and Sue Taraskowitz, anything, it was very detailed and regarding this case and specific dates. They didn't come out and give a blanket no. They said in the original denial and the appeal that there is a pending investigation into this. There's pending matters into this, which this could mean nothing, but I also found it interesting because wouldn't it be easier to just say no? So we're going to speak to this in Bulger and his brother's ties to the airport and a trooper. There's been some long history at the airport with the Bulgers and the troopers, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But again, when I said I talked to Sean today, we just were spitballing and some really like there was some stuff that came out, and I have all my notes, and I want to really go over these, and I would love Joe here, and he agreed to come back. He said he doesn't want you guys to get sick of him, but I assured him that would not be the case. The
I just
disclaimer.
wanted to, sorry, I wanted to interrupt and just say if you haven't liked or followed Wicked Honest, that would be helpful for the algorithm. It helps get the information about the case out there, but also the Facebook page, the Susan Taraskowitz case update. Oh, no, no. The Susan Taraskowitz case discussion and awareness. I'm actually looking at it right now. It looks like we have about 2,500 members, and like Diana said in the past couple episodes, like the posts are upwards of 10,000 and things like that. So that's another way to keep informed of all the stuff going on. If you have anything that you would like to come forward with, we'll put the number on the screen for the Mass State Police. Diane's actively talking to the investigators that are working the case still, so and then you can also obviously get in contact with us, wickedhonest1@gmail.com, or you can message either one of us on the Facebook group anonymously. We don't need to know names, things like that, but if anybody wants to come bring any information, we do encourage that. So the Facebook page, the the like and subscribe on Wicked Honest, sharing it, telling people about it. Both of them would be very helpful. And
Yeah, I
then
want to really reiterate that. Like, please like and we have a lot of viewers in. I think it's the end of summer, so they've been down a little bit. But I don't think that doesn't mean anything. The case is losing traction. I hear you and how interested you are and how much Sue's case means to you and how you've never forgotten her either. And I can't tell you how much that means. I knew I wasn't alone. I knew we weren't alone in this. So please like and subscribe. It really kicks in the YouTube algorithm and spreads this out there. So just hit like and subscribe. It's free.
it's
It
free.
really helps out.
Yep. So Diane, want to just do the quick disclaimer before we bring Joe up?
Yeah, I want to do the quick disclaimer, but I do want to say I did put a post on the Facebook group. It's a letter to the district attorney. You can copy and paste it. I did put the link, and it's just encouraging them to that we're not giving up. This case is really important. Please take another fresh look at this. You can copy and paste it. I put the link. There's a box right on the website, and just click send. Share it. It'll help the family. It's the least these small things you can do to really help, and these make a huge difference, and it could really make a difference in the case, honestly. So please just consider taking 2 seconds out of your time to do that, and appreciate that. We'll talk about the vigil that we're having at the end of the show.
At the end, yeah.
But yeah, so Susan Taraskowitz, 27-year-old female, found in the trunk of her car in Revere, Massachusetts in 1992, my home city. We're from the North Shore, and we've been talking about this case. It's been unsolved. It's going on 34 years. There's been multiple theories, multiple people in the media, articles, all kinds of things. There's people that we do use their names because they are in public filings. There's a lot of people that will remain anonymous because they are not, and then it's also discretionary what we do. But no, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. There has no one been convicted of this murder, brutal murder, yet, and I will stress yet. So we're just talking it through in real time. So, and if we make any errors that you see, please message us, because we're again just talking it through. I'm writing a book on the case. It's slow going because I'm actively investigating this case, like for my own research. So yeah. So anyway, welcome to the stage, retired Revere police officer Joe Rizzuti. Yay!
Hi, Joe.
Hey, and thank you for the kind words about the passing of the dog. And the volume's a little low, Diane.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So in getting back to the DA, let the people know that I actually ran into him at an event, and he was totally unaware of what was going on, and I made him aware, and he was supposed to get back to me or his chief of staff, and that was 2 weeks ago. So he is aware personally of what's going on. He sat down and had dinner with me and my partner Leo, who was violently injured in a call, and he knows about it. So he can't say he doesn't know about it now. And I knew Kevin, the DA, when he was over at Chelsea Court. So he knows about it. Linda Champion, who's running against him, knows about it, and I'm pretty sure Rachel Rowland knows about it. So he can't say he wasn't aware. I made him aware of it. So let's see where.
That's
2 weeks ago.
Attorney Kevin Hayden.
Kevin Hayden, yeah, he's a good guy. I mean, I like Kevin, always did, but I know he's busy and things could slip through the cracks. But this is something that he needs to be at that event, and he needs to know what's going on.
And I will tell you, Joe, you and I talked. I did spoke to the lead investigator of the case, who I did tell him that, and then he did say that their homicide district attorneys, they are aware, but sometimes it doesn't get all the way to the top. But we have a vigil coming up, and this case is one of, I think, if arguably, Joe, at least one of the top two most famous cases, unsolved cases in Massachusetts, that I think that he should know.
This case is countrywide. It's a huge case, but it's also she's speaking for every victim of domestic violence that's out there. And it's unfortunate she has to be the face of it, but that's what you folks are doing, and that's what the Massachusetts State Police are doing, and the other investigators. And that's why I'm here to talk about the investigators. There's only a few, when you look at it, that does this type of work. On an average day, the Massachusetts State Police, the CPAC units, the detective units in Boston and Worcester, and all these other amazing individuals, they are a talented group. I work with some of the best of them. A guy that one of my mentors, Stephen Pisano, who was on the lead on this case, this guy was amazing. Larger than any TV fictional. These guys are really the best at what they do. And what was happening down the airport at that time, what we were looking at now is the troopers were doing their job. And there's a thing in my, I do mental health for first responders. I am a suicide interventionist. We lose more police officers to suicide than we do line of duty deaths. We lose more to cancer and cardio because of the stress. And one of the main chief investigators is a term that was coined up at a facility that I work at called the Onset Academy. It's called administrative betrayal. And in this case, it was more than administrative betrayal because the administrators have somebody they have to answer to. And back in the day, the Massachusetts State Police and the Port Authority was being controlled and bullied by, and I use the word bullied, by Whitey Bulger, his brother, who was the Senate president. And I'm not talking anything that isn't in the public domain that the legendary Howie Carr wrote about in his books and has talked a lot about. And this specific case kind of hit home because he was a Revere guy, and his name was Trooper Detective William Johnson of the Massachusetts State Police. He was a highly decorated war veteran, Green Beret, which those are the top of the line. And his story needs to be told because his story is like many other police officers that will take their lives. A lot of them will take their lives based on our studies. A lot of them is because of administrative betrayal. They feel that the agency's done them wrong or politically done them wrong. It's just one part. There's other reasons why they, our profession, they'll do what they do. But in this case, has to be, I can't tell you, when I looked into it, I'm like, oh my God, they were being bullied by this Bulger, this Senate president. And let's get a little bit into the history with this amazing trooper. He was a legendary, highly decorated Mass State Trooper. In 1979, there's a story where he's taking his wife home and he gets cut off. And he stops and he confronts the guy. And it's all documented. I'm not talking anything out of school. And the guy gets out a baseball bat and assaults this trooper. And the guy was Mark Rossetti, who was an OC figure who's still out there. So he survives that, and in justice, they go to court. Around 1987, he's assigned to the Logan Airport. They're doing amazing work, and he stops. Lo and behold, Whitey Bulger with a bag full of cash. Now it's estimated, some rumors are out there, $500,000 going out to Montreal. And he does what any honest, hardworking police officer does, a trooper does. He does his job, only to be visited by the director of Massport, a guy named Davis. It's all documented out there. You can look at it. And they want him to basically sweep the case. They want him to that's to go away. And he does his job. He stands his ground. And what happens to him? He gets basically tortured by the agency. He gets demoted. He gets sent up to the field. And 1998, I'm working in Revere. I'm a rookie cop. I started in 94. I had the honor to meet him a couple of times. He was always a gentleman to me. It's larger than life. I idolized these guys. And 1998, he took his own life. And we now know, based on congressional testimony, when the Senate president goes out of Congress and they ask him about the involvement with his brother, he pleads the fifth. One thing was brought up: what did he do to the Mass State Police? And he would mess with Massport. He would mess with the state police budget. He actually went after the head of the organized crime back then, and he changed the ruling because they weren't civil service back then. They were at the whim of I believe, a contract, and he made it so that basically forcing the guy that was investigating his brother to retire. This is insanity, right? And he pleads the fifth in this. And he also made it so that these legendary troopers had to, if they didn't retire, they would get their pensions would go down a lot, substantially. So these guys were forced out. And that's the administrative political betrayal, because their colonels are appointed, and at the time, if your budget is being told that it's going to be slashed, and in Billy Bulger's defense, my dad loved the guy because he was the guy that got a lot of people jobs, right? He was Senate
Yeah.
president, I think, from 78 to 98 or
Yeah.
96. And he was, I never met him, but the stories was he took care of his constituency, but there was also a price to pay with that because we know now, and it's out there, that he was also looking out for his brother, and his brother was an evil man, was a serial killer, was the worst of the worst. And he pleads the fifth on this. You got to read the congressional testimony, and they ask him about the death of this amazing trooper, and he pleads the fifth. And I thought that was just imagining to these guys trying to do the job. And it happens in police departments all over the place. This is nothing new.
Joe, not to interrupt you, but I feel like just in researching this case, I feel like, I feel like I've heard this story already 3
I was
times.
just gonna say that. I was just gonna say this is what Nunzio talks about.
Yeah,
What happened in
it happens in
I've
every
heard
police
it from 3 different officers I've spoken with, and it's very disheartening. And honestly, that I think everyone knows where we're from. A lot of we have sort of a negative connotation with cops. A lot of people, but now it's like there's a lot of good police officers that are being cut off at the knees by what Joe's talking about right now.
It doesn't, I'm not going to go in the rabbit hole because I would say I'm pretty much an activist for police officers' rights. And I'm not going to give that 3-letter name to that group that thought there was civil rights, but they were no more than agitators. The actions of a few, they see these snippets, and they burnt down a country, and they painted all police officers as these evil, crazy, racist type people. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I was one of the first officers to use the new statute on civil rights. The first person to defend against civil rights is the patrol officer that goes to these calls. In Massachusetts, we get a strong law that we can charge people, and I was one of the first to do that in Revere. And I'm getting sick of hearing all these, they keep throwing the stones. And granted, there's some craziness going on out there with cops, and some people shouldn't be on the job, and some people, get kind of power hungry or whatever you want to call it. But that percentage is so small. Millions of interactions every day, millions go throughout the country with police officers, and they do amazing work. They solve amazing crimes. And then you get the political aspect of, because remember, these chiefs and these superintendents and they're at the whim of, I deal with it every day, these town managers who get appointed, who don't really have a good education, don't know what the job's like, and they're listening to the wrong people, and they have wield a lot of power, and they wield a lot of budget, and it trickles down to the person that's doing the job. And I've seen it in my job. It's happening it happens throughout the country. And here's a case where we know, well, we can speculate that, we know now, well, we heard of the amount of cocaine coming through the airport, and we know, Whitey Bulger was no secret that was into the drugs. I'm not saying that he had involvement in that, but we also know that.
Just real quickly, Joe, just for anyone watching, and if you don't know who Whitey Bulger is, he was one of the most notorious organized crime figures in Massachusetts.
He's a serial killer. I wouldn't even say
he's a serial killer. Yeah, and his brother was support the opposite. Apparently, I mean, he went and became Senate president, and then what was he, president of UMass?
Yeah, his reward was
Boston.
Yeah, and like I said, I honestly think, when anybody starts out their career in anything, they have good intentions. And he did, like I said, he helped a lot of people, but that all goes away when you enable a maniac like his brother to do what he did. And, and that's all been documented. I'm not going to go down there. Howie's wrote extensive books on it, and it's all been documented. But what I'm trying to get at is that the airport troopers live this world, right? I mean, they live this world where their budget every year was controlled by this person. And if you want an assignment back in the day to the airport, which was a great assignment, this guy pulled a lot of weight. We know if you needed a job, they used to call it was a standing joke, the Mr. Bulger's Transit Authority. You wanted a job at the T, you wanted a job somewhere, this was the guy. And as long as you were in good standing with him and you did the right thing, this was the guy that got a lot of good jobs. And he like I said, held the purse strings. And what he did with the Mass State Police on the airport, and what he did with the troopers in general, by changing the laws and the policies, procedures, because he could do that, and it indirectly affected the investigation against his brother. I know a legendary trooper that, this all trickled down. Now, I'm not, we're speculating what happened at the airport, but it's kind of crazy to know that John Connolly shows up here, at a whim. And so that tells me that these poor guys and girls on the airport doing their jobs, there was a lot of political influence and this was the time where the Senate president, I'm not saying he was involved in this case, but there was a lot of politics going on uh, with the Senate president in interfering with law enforcement, especially the Mass State Police. And it's absolutely disgusting to read the testimony and the congressional testimony. He pleads the fifth. And I just want to bring light that this legendary trooper, like a lot of our heroes that take their own lives, they do great work and they just get overwhelmed. And again, it's why I study police suicides, and that's my wheelhouse. And a lot of it has to do with other things, but administrative betrayal is probably one of the biggest things I see even today in what I do. And listen, most of these guys have to, you're not going to fight City Hall, but at least support them in what they do every day, because there's not enough good. We're losing good police officers every day in the United States. Here in the Commonwealth, it's a mass exodus. The standards are getting lower. The job, yeah, it's good money, but what good is the money if you come on the job to do the right thing? You want to do the right thing. And I deal with this every day. And I just want to, highlight, and I thank you for highlighting just one individual that was an amazing individual that took his own life because of this political administrative betrayal. And
Say his name again.
Trooper William Johnson in the Massachusetts State Police. It's how he's written about it and talked about it extensively, and he's given him credit and where it's due. And I appreciate you guys having me come on. And if anybody's struggling out there, that's a police officer or a first responder, please reach out to me. You don't have to go alone at this. It's happening every day. It's always going to happen. It's just the checks and balances of the business that's out there, but it does affect the outcome of, unfortunately, the victims. There's not enough, just think about every day this murder and how many of these murders go unsolved because we don't have, they're overworked. These detectives are overworked. It's like Groundhog Day. I could never do that job. I have so much respect for these guys and girls that go out every day that want to do that work. I'd rather be in the patrol. I had more fun in patrol. I thought I was effective. But I have so much respect for our detectives and people, inspectors, we call them, and detectives that do this work. Like I said, I work with some of the best. And yeah, and that's,
And to be fair, Joe, I mean this. We also, I just want to say, and you know this, and you're a staunch advocate for police, but you're also a critic, like all of us. And certain things that are happening right now, as we know in Mass State Police, like Michael Proctor and all that. There's no room for even there is no grace for even
and I'm
one.
not defending by any means. Listen, when you, and when nobody hates bad cops more than a good cop, right?
Yeah.
It really is. And when you got somebody like that, and he's just one person, but it affects so many cases, right? And you come down to his, and a lot of people are going to probably in my profession don't like the saying, but the lack of good supervision. We don't spend enough money. I came out of the military police, and we don't have this problem because when I went to a school, my management schools, went to regular Army management schools, even though I worked for the Guard full time. There were 4 weeks, 12 weeks, and 16 weeks, and that's on the boots on the ground level. Right now in Massachusetts, I think California does a lot better than anybody. You take a test on any given day, you go to an assessment board, and let's face it, a lot of it's very political. You have a high score. It doesn't, they should be taking a look at what you've done on the job. In leadership, we don't, it's very little continuing education on the boots on the ground, the sergeants and the lieutenants level. It's up to the individual department to spend the money, and there's no money for it.
And
We have
they need more organizations like yours to check in on mental health. And I also think there needs to be more, like, the world is constantly changing culturally. The climate is constantly changing. So when you have people dealing with the general public every single day, that like in healthcare, you have to take sort of continuing ed about like what's going on culturally with people and all of that, and constantly stay abreast of that. And it can be aggravating because you have to conform to all different types of, and I'm not sure what they do, but this, and it's ever changing too, the environment so you have to stay abreast of this. They're working the streets.
I had an old time Boston sergeant who told me when I would get worked up, he'd say, "Listen, kid, I come on in the 60s, we thought the job was done because of Miranda. Okay. Then come the 70s, in the 80s, we had Rodney King. We thought the job was done. Then we get that group that hijacked the narrative. And I'm saying, listen, there's no doubt in my mind there was a lot of cops doing some bad stuff to a lot of people, and it was wrong. But we can learn and we can educate and we can work together with the community. And I think Boston police does the best job in the world. Nobody does a better job than boots on the ground. And I got to give credit. You got to give credit to Commissioner Bratton and Commissioner Davis and Jack Maple, the broken windows done to community policing, by making, putting the officer back on, like I was a beat cop, and your community. But a lot of it's got to do with the society changes, and cops will adapt and they'll get through with this. I love the idea of body cams. Body cams protect the citizens and it protects the officers from frivolous lawsuits. Or listen, I could tell you a story where I was out injured and I had somebody come and file a complaint and said that I used a racial slur. And the person wrote the report and they were laughing. They're like, "Where was he? He's down the street. He's working a detail." I'm like, "Okay, write the report." And my department took action against that person. Like, no, Joe hasn't been here in 3 weeks. He's out injured. And they do things like that. We know bad people do things like that, but we also know this. Sometimes my profession, people, do the wrong things and they need to be held accountable. And I think we're starting to get, we're doing a better job at that. But highlighting the good cops like we're doing tonight needs to happen because every day
Yeah.
there's so many amazing people that do great work.
And as you know, when I talked to you earlier, I did talk to in this case and on the show, we've been exposing all and bringing to light, because all these good cops that do a lot of work it doesn't get seen a lot of times. In a case like Sue's case, there's so much work that the feds did that people didn't know about. There was the state police. I'm not sure why things didn't move forward, but there was 2 grand juries. There was tons of work. There was some really good investigators on this case. There were some that didn't seem so good, but there was a lot of work done, and they need, as much as also we're going to criticize certain things, like that's what you're going to do in anything like this. It's an unsolved case. What did they not do? What could they have seen? We're playing, what is it, Monday morning quarterback, all of that. Although I will say, I think we can all agree the beginning of the case, there was some really questionable actions taken in the investigation, or lack of an investigation by
Or too many hands
there.
too many hands in the pot, too many different.
Well, maybe just that, but also maybe more than that. But
Yeah.
Over the years, so it's a 34-year-old case. Back then, technology wasn't where it was. You're right. We had the merge going on at the time. But the hours that these investigators that have done on Susan, and then they age out or they get promoted and they move on. And that's the other thing. It gets hand off and then they start from scratch. And that's the sad part with cold cases, but in cases in general, right? I'm not a detective, and nor do I pretend to be one. And I know that, I would every day there's another case coming on, and these CPAC troopers that go out that investigate every day in the Commonwealth, they get called because there's only like Boston, Worcester, and I think maybe Springfield that handles their own investigations, maybe New Bedford, that go out and investigate the suspicious deaths or every death. They, imagine these troopers, the young troopers, they get assigned to that. They go out and do what we call bodies. Every day they go out to an unattended death, and they got to see this. And that's the world that they live in. And I could see where it's no different than the amazing people I work with that are social workers, right? Every day, and I had this conversation with my partner today. I don't know how they do it. They go out every day and they try to solve people's problems. And they taught me a big lesson. My partner has taught me a huge lesson about taking time off and taking care of myself. And we don't do that in policing. We do a horrible in first responders in general. I know I'm speaking to the
Yeah, I was
choir.
just gonna say that. It goes across the board. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Joe, but I just wanted to say, like, it's a lot like nursing. Diana
Oh
and
no,
I
I
have
was going to
said
say nursing. I apologize because I have a sister.
it's Diana and I have said for a million years, when you have a good work ethic and you go in it to because you care about people and you're dealing with the public, but then you're trying to bring these things to administrators and you're trying to bring these changes that will make. We've talked about our company that we just started, like our advocacy company, but it's just necessary because there's such a gap between being able to help people and the systems that are in place. And then like you said, like it's betrayal, managerial betrayal, or I don't know what you call it, administrative betrayal, but it's huge. It's huge. It's across the board. So it's and like it's fine if it's a Kohl's, nobody's dying, and no disrespect to to retail work and things like that. But when you're looking at nursing, when you're looking at policing, when you're looking at first responders, I mean, that's people kill themselves over it rather than quit or whatever, because I think Nunzio story that was when Joe just started talking about it. I'm like, this is exactly what he was talking about. He just got like pushed out
It's multiple officers I've spoken with. And then I also think what happens, and this is just my opinion because I've seen it for many years in healthcare, is when this sort of happens, this betrayal and then this beaten downness and this taken for granted and all these things, and you're stunted to do a good job. Whatever it is, you have to do so much paperwork. You work the case, and you're getting taken off of it for whatever reason, or you're a healthcare worker that has thoughts on a diagnosis, and you're shut down. You do start.
And then the patient dies or whatever.
Then you just start doing just the basic bare minimum of a job. And in this case, I've just discussed with you both that I do notice some things, and not just in law enforcement, but just in general in the world, that people aren't taking these little steps to go a bit above and beyond, and I think that's just the nature of the beast when you get sort of beaten down, or for lack of a better word, and that extra phone call that might to the crime lab or to the doctor that might make such a difference. You're sort of just staying in your box and keeping your head low and just being a worker bee because you're not getting anywhere. And then people suffer, cases suffer, so that I'm seeing that, and I'm relating to it in healthcare, but unfortunately now here we are. I'm writing about investigating the Sue case, and that I don't want to see that in this case, but I think it's across the board, and it needs to change in every profession, especially dealing with people's lives.
Oh,
it's too important.
And here's the thing that I'm special. I'm focusing on. I work subcontract to the one. I'm very proud of the work at the New England Police Benevolent Association that allowed me and my partner to do on the retirement end of it, because when we're kicked to the curb and you're sent out there and you haven't taken care of 32 years of dealing with this, we're launching a retiree program, and I'm very adamant about retiree coaching, and I do this whole thing on it because we owe it to our firefighters after 32 years. I know the Massachusetts Professional Firefighters, Michael Jefferson, the wellness coordinator, he beat me to it. He started a retiree group. We're doing it in some of our fire departments that we're doing the retiree counseling, and we're saying, hey, listen, we're doing before you retire, talk to me. Let's get you to talk to someone. And because you deserve, I don't call it the back nine, I call it your best nine. And if I didn't have the help that I had with On-Site Academy where I work and the therapist like I work with, I don't know where and I was drinking. I'm an alcoholic, 14 and a half years, and I drank over this job. And we just don't, I know the nurses.
I'm drinking. Sorry, right? I'm having a
yeah, that's okay. You guys deserve it. But here's the thing: a lot of people can use it as a coping. I couldn't. But the nurses, you talk about the nurses, you talk about the EMS the private EMS who don't they speak up and they get fired. This is a good subject to talk about, because if I can make one person today aware of, I think every nurse, every first responder should have a therapist assigned to them. I know the feds, if you're working like human trafficking, they have to go check in with somebody.
Yeah.
I bet, yeah.
In my practice,
I see it on the TV shows. They have
that's a service that we offer, is wellness check-ins. They're not fitness for duties. Where they come in and they sit down with a culturally competent therapist, and nothing gets written down, and they just a pathway to talk to someone. And then I
I will
think
say in healthcare too, I will give healthcare credit, which I do not ever because it's infuriating. But they do offer employee wellness things. We also get um, mental health and all this. They have a site, and it's discounted and all of that, and it's very cheap copays and all that. So
Well, I was just
it,
thinking of Joe, like, the Lindsay Clancy case is going on right now. Obviously, everybody's seeing it. I'm watching it and whatnot. And I'm thinking, they just had the EMTs and the firefighters and the cops and all the first responders update one after the other, after the other, after the other, describing this horrific scene where they're just not only treating a woman that just jumped out the window with sliced throat and arms and whatever else, but then they find her three children strangled in the basement. I mean, and you're not going to therapy. I mean, I don't know how you go home from work that night.
yeah.
is the
They
thing.
shouldn't be allowed to. They should. Are they forced to see a therapist to go
I don't
return
think
to
so.
duty?
No,
I don't know.
you can't force anybody. But we do have, and I got to be careful what I say because full disclosure, what I did for work, what I do for work. So we're offered in Massachusetts. Anytime there's a critical incident, we have 27 teams for the last 40 years of highly trained peer support and clinicians that are trained. It's organized by the fire service because they can do a better job organizing. So they get called out right away, and I'm on the team here up in Greater Lowell. I'm also on the Granite State team up in New Hampshire now, and me and my partner, and we get called out for what they call the first phase is called the defusing. Within the first 7 hours, we're boots on the ground. My union is amazing. We're boots on the ground as soon as it happens, and we orchestrate and get these teams in if they want, and we offer. And now some departments make it mandatory, which is okay, but when you offer it to them, but the defusing's right after it. It's called the Mitchell model. I've been trained since '96, and what happens is first 7 hours, we usually do it within 2 or 3 hours. We bring a team in with these professionals, and we do the diffusing, and then we go back if needed with a deeper dive that's a little bit more intense. And then if we notice something off of that, we give them the resources. Fire, I'm also trained in the fire side of it. They do something a little different because you remember there's departments that are so busy they don't have time to call for a defusing debriefing all the time. So fire uses a different model where they have resources available. They go in and they will have a session, and it's voluntary, come in and they offer resources, and if they need to talk to somebody, they're offered the resources. So we're very fortunate in Massachusetts. We've had this in place for 40 years. We've had the Boston Police Peer Support Unit, 1974 it started. So this stuff has all been afforded to these, and I'm involved. I've been involved in a lot of these heavy duty critical incident calls, and as a peer and as a patrolman working in Revere. So we have a great network to get people help, and we're very fortunate to have the On-Site Academy. It's an amazing place. Dr. Hayden and Valerie Duggan. I've been there as a client. I work there on staff 1 day a week. I'm embedded with a police department that's funded 100% by the Commonwealth, that any first responder and nurse, by the way, can go there. And they
Sign
offer
me up, Joe. Sign me
they
up.
have
Yeah, we're going. Diane, what are we doing Monday?
they,
We'll go.
they were amazing during COVID and they have a week program that does it. They'll pick a subject, and then once you go there, you're able to go back. And then we run a military weekend for our first responders on military. And I got to give them credit. They just started a 2-day retiree program. And they also, more importantly, they've developed a program for the command staff, because these chiefs of PDs in the fire side and correction side, they need someone to talk to. So I'm very proud of the work that's going on at On-Site. We have another program on California, First Responder Wellness, that does similar work on a larger scale. And the Center of Excellence does a lot of work with the fire service. So their help is there. It's there for them. It's afforded to them. It's up to them to take advantage of it, but it is offered.
I want to just say too that I can't even imagine, and I know this, and my husband's a firefighter and all that. But as I spoke earlier in the episode in the beginning, I had spoken to Sean Melvin today, who was the investigator on the case for a time, and Sean was describing to me, and we had never really got into this so much, but he really described to me his theory of what sort of happened, and we worked it through together of what happened as far as the whole crime, the murder, and all of that. And we sort of went step by step, and I'll tell you, when he described what he thought and what he, I'm so deeply affected by this. Just
Yeah.
envisioning what he, because we just broke it down, the steps of what happened to her. What he thinks that, and we'll get into this next week, but like the strangulation, and then he puts her on her knees, and she was kicked, and I'm telling you, I was like shaking, like because I'm envisioning this, because when you start going through that, and then being on scene in that, there is no way you cannot be
Yeah.
deeply affected by this. Because
Affected by that.
even
Yeah.
talking about this, I am. I will tell you, I'm very affected, and I of course I'm affected by this, but envisioning this really going down the line, and this is not even seeing images or anything.
The
Right.
transfer, that what you're calling about in our business is called transference, and then there's a thing called compassion fatigue. A guy named Charles Figley wrote it for the
Yeah.
first responder people. But just imagine, this is one case that the good lieutenant's seen. Imagine how many other cases he's seen. The average person has 2 or 3 major traumas in their life, and depending on the agency you're with, if you work at the Lawrences, the Lowells, and the busy Reveres and Chelseas, these offices, and I can tell you from my first experience, I would go to a call, I'd wrap it up a shooting call, and then I'm dispatched to another one, and then another one, and another one. Take time off, go to court, and you're back. And it's awful hard to catch up to do the defusing. I was fortunate that I would reach out to Onsite. I had Boston Stress. I knew what to do. But at the end, it caught me. The drinking caught me. I wasn't paying
Yeah.
attention to doing it. But just, if that's happening to you, just think about these amazing therapists, the cultural competent ones. And I'll tell you a real quick one. When I was up at Onsite, when I'm in a group for our first responders to do this work, we're vetted, and they make sure, highly vetted, that we're okay with this. But for us that work in this field, that experienced it, I can't say enough about my partner. When I left there after doing the work, she would call me and say, "How you?" I mean, well, "I'm fine." "What do you mean you're fine?" She goes, "You've been at that call. I haven't. You've been there at that shooting. You've been there at that suicide." And then it would bring back stuff, but I was good with it. But just think about how many horrific calls, car accidents that the good lieutenant's been through, how many murders they've been through. And we didn't have we had this stuff, but a lot of times it wasn't, we don't, because of the culture, the stigma, we're okay. We don't, I did my best debriefings at the August Moon after work with a Scorpio bowl and bowl of chicken wings. And
Well, it's a faster fix than
It's a faster Band-Aid.
and it's all it was. And it doesn't have to be alcohol. It could be anything. But that was our debriefings. We called it choir practice, but what it was a debriefing, because we're down there with other guys in the job and girls, and we're talking through this. And that's the difference between the fire service. How this come about was, after the Potomac crash, the fire service was more resilient. You know why? They have a thing called the kitchen table. They come back after a call, and Diane, you heard about the kitchen table. All the world's problems are solved there. And that's a defusing. And we realized what they were doing, we don't have. We go back in the cruiser, we don't talk to anybody, we go home. And that's how the history of this mental health for debriefing defusings came
I mean,
about.
that's why domestic violence among police officers and their wives is so high as well. I mean, not to generalize a whole gender, but there's a lot of domestic violence in police officers and their wives. I don't know if it goes the other way. I know male to female.
We're going in the right direction by I'm speaking on the exact to the spouses up in the Lakes region. Onsite does a great group. There's therapists that I work with that is specific to first responder relationships, because there's such a need. But here it comes. It's educating the firefighter, the police officer, corrections, the family. There's a book called "I Love a Cop, I Love a Firefighter," and I gave it to my wife at one time. It scared the crap out of her, right? But educating them, because they're the first ones to see how we change. And one thing I didn't do, and I didn't want to talk about the gore, but if I'm having a bad day, it's okay to say, "Listen, I had a bad day. I hated going to family functions." But if you told me I had to go to a function with a group of my brothers and sisters, I would drop what I'm doing to be there.
Oh, I understand. I live with that one, but
So,
Yeah.
anyways, I could
And
talk
that makes
forever.
sense too,
But again, we're getting better. And I thank
but you've
God
also, again, it's
for
going
the.
back to having to talk about it because people that are involved in your lives don't know what's going on, as you don't know what's going on in our lives if we don't talk about it either. Like, I'll give a quick example. When there was that big act, the guy got hit on 95
Yeah,
at work just recently,
yeah, the
and
correction officer.
yeah, and my husband was on the scene of, no, was that, so whatever big accident, remember he was
there
on
was a
the,
bunch right in a row.
It was
So
right
one
in a
up there
row.
where a
not sure
correction
which.
officer got hit by a car. He stopped to help somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah, and my,
wasn't that one. This was the week
oh,
before
sorry.
there was a
There's
bad
been a few
accident.
up there in that corridor.
There was
Yeah,
a
right
horrible,
here.
horrible accident, and then my husband's on accidents every day, all the time. We live by 95, and all in water rescues and all these things. And then, but then he got really mad at me because he was, well, upset with me because he said, "You have never asked me about that accident." He's on accidents all day. I didn't realize that this one was any different than the next one, you know. And it's like, I don't know if you don't tell
Well,
me.
because the pebble, we call it pebbles in the backpack. It happens. Like you go through your career and you don't take care of the first call. Well, I see this every day where you go to that accident, all of a sudden it's bothering you and you're drinking more and you're acting up. Well, it's not that call. It's the other calls that you haven't taken care of that's surfacing. And that's how we work it. And that's how I want to.
Your bucket's running over.
There you go. And I get a class that I teach. I take these, I bought these KFC buckets, and I call it the stress bucket. And when I teach the class, I make them put all the incidents on cards, and we put it in there, and then just pull one
I
out.
love that it's KFC, Joe. I love that
Well,
it's
it's not
KFC.
KFC; they're white, but
Oh,
I make them design them. But yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's important to humanize these amazing individuals, these detectives, the patrol guy. Just think about that patrol officer, and I know him. These patrol, you had Anunzio. I can't wait to meet. I think I met him once, but that Revere case, there's a relationship, and I'm not going to say his name because he's a great guy. But the patrolman that went up to investigate the crime up in Reservoir Ave with Donati, he was one of the first on Susan's call. And I talked to him. He's like, I don't want to get involved. I don't talk about it. Just imagine as a new cop, and I've been there, I have been to this, and we all love it, the adrenaline. When you go to that horrific call, it's like going into a haunted house. When you lift that, and then your brain looks at it as not real. But just think about what you lifting that trunk up and seeing this.
no.
And then
No.
you got to go out, and those guys, and I know for a fact because I know these guys, they went out and answered calls the rest of the day. And
And
I
I
have.
visually in my head, and obviously I've been working on this piece and this book for a long time, and I will tell you this is really the first time talking with Sean because he was, and I had to let him go because you don't get this opportunity with him so much. Sean's not in the best health, and we just spoke. We talked for about 3 hours, and he was talking, and this is the first time in this case, really visually, I can absolutely see every detail of her in this trunk and her wounds and how it may have happened, and it's really difficult, and it really just set me back a minute. Like it was really just it's hard, and I can't even imagine being. I even on the show, and I would like I want to discuss some things, and sometimes we have to get graphic for the case for the purposes of the case and to maybe help. I think it can help. So I sometimes struggle where that line is because I also don't want to upset our family and all of
Right.
that, you know, so I
Right.
don't quite know what to say or not say. And I have to always think, will this be helpful? Like, is this helpful? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a tough one, and I hope to God the families got help. And we cut the budgets right. We're throwing money away at all this crazy stuff, which a lot of it's good, but the victims advocate and the domestic violence advocate and the counseling that's out there. We need to spend a lot more money on that. That's where the DA's office should be
Oh yeah,
advocating. But I could talk forever on it.
Our priorities are so up our ass as a country, as
Well,
it
just
just as a whole with
there's
all
no
of this
mental
stuff.
health. There is. I'm not going to get into who cut funding to mental health, but
no,
that was
but
many years ago.
yeah, when you come down to it, like, I just want to draw the picture that our heroes, and I call them that, the fire, police, and firefighters are my heroes. My life was saved. I wanted to be a firefighter. I talk about it all the time. I represented, listen, I am honored. I represent about 800 firefighters. They talk to me, a retired cop, more than because they they feel there's a trust, right? And I'm honored when they tell me this stuff. And anytime my guys talk about it, because it's such a need. And I just hope they get the care we can offer the care in their retirement prior to them retiring so they can go on. And we're taking a deep dive looking at all the good, the police officers and firefighters that it doesn't seem to affect the resiliency, the post-traumatic growth. And there's a program called Struggle World that we implement that's free, that's out there, that we're uh, Dr. Coughlin and Moose Lossinger, the big police psychologist. We are trying to take a look at the ones that do really well and why it doesn't bother them and what some of the things that they do. And one of the big things we're seeing is they have a good work-life balance. And my uncle Tony is an example of that. He always went camping. Diane, and we know the story. And but Anthony, my uncle Tony, God love him, he yelled at me. He said, "What are you doing?" And my partner, God love her, she forced me. I have a house in New Hampshire. Why are you not on that boat? Why are you not
Yeah.
taking time? You know,
I think we're all
but
guilty of that a little bit.
they'll never get me
No,
in
we're
yoga.
type A. I'm Carrie. We're like that.
They'll never get me in yoga pants. They've been trying and do all that.
Thank
All good
God,
stuff.
Joe. Thank God.
I'd
Well,
like to see
absolutely.
that, Joe. I'm interested in that. I'd like to video it. Actually, I'd like to
No,
put it
ain't
on the
gonna
channel.
happen.
Can I just ask you a question though, tying it back, then we'll wrap it up, is so the culture at the airport at the time, so this is with the Bulgers and all of that, so stemming back from the 70s all into the 90s, so at the time of Sue also, there's this culture with the troopers, and there's this someone that's sort of, doing some things and cutting some things and doing all kinds of, so I'm wondering how the other trooper, so obviously this trooper that we were speaking of is by the book. He's doing his job. He's trying to keep his nose to the ground, doing the right thing, right? So we've long questioned the actions of the troopers, F troop at the airport and I'm not saying good or bad. I'm just saying we've questioned it as far as the case. And there seems to be a lot of lack of investigation at the airport, first and foremost, in this case.
I could tell you right off the bat, I had a professor named Andy Palumbo, God rest his soul. He was a detective down at the airport, legendary drug cop. He actually made one of the largest drug cases in Revere. Me and you talked about that. The kid was 17 years old, kid I grew up with. He did him. And I know the work that Andy did, and he died in a motorcycle accident, ironically. But I can tell you, when he was down there at that time, this guy, talk about another legend. I mean, the cases that he made and the cases that he did down there needs to be talked about. There were so many more that I don't know of that did work, because that airport, you remember the 70s, we're talking they're hijacking tractor trailers. They're doing crazy stuff at the airport. It was wide open. Then we get the terrorism stuff that happened after 9/11 and things got locked down. But
Well, clearly the 90s were crazy too there as well.
oh, the 90s, listen, I come on the end of the old school policing, and thank God, things are going the right direction. But anyways, we're here to help anybody. Reach out. I just want to thank you for highlighting these amazing people that are out there and highlighting the corruption. And I don't care if hopefully he finds out about it. I don't care. What are you going to do to me? Cut my budget. See you later.
Cut my budget.
Yeah. I'm dying. I would love to run into John Conley. He's cancer. It's amazing. I wish a lot of these cancer patients could survive 7 years like John has. It's amazing, that he's out there to live in his, fancy wherever he's living. I mean, come on, give me a break.
I've
Disgusting.
Heard he's close.
Disgusting.
Yeah, but a lot of things are disgusting, unfortunately. And the more it comes to light, the more you saw. Just keep doing the right thing, and don't let it get you bitter. If you
Well, thank you for again. You have me on too much.
No, well,
No, we don't.
I want to go over the Sean. I want to go over the Sean what we talked about today. I also want to. If you recall, I talked to a DNA expert that reached out.
Oh, I have too. I spent a lot of time with that person on the phone with Brody Labs.
This person also reached out to Mass State Police in 2019, and was told there was no DNA, and that's the problem with the case, and was hung up on. This is her account of this. So that's quite interesting, but here we are.
But
But
you got to remember, they're going to protect. They don't know who they're talking to, and
I was
but
gonna say that.
yeah,
I
no,
feel like if someone
yeah,
caught, I mean,
said that.
I might
I
have gave it
said
a
that
little
to her
bit
too.
more
but I know
previous, but
we know me and
I
Diane.
think you
We
can
all
say.
we'll
I
say
think you
we
can
know
say.
now that the technology is out there, and we know the questions that we were. I know you related to the state police, what to ask, and I think going in that direction with this new technology that I know the FBI has, but I know Brody Labs has been amazing. The cold cases that they've solved, they did
right.
one what 42 years ago off of a sample, and they're saying that they
Yeah, and
can't guarantee.
I
Can't,
gave the information about DNA solves and all of that. So we'll see what comes of that. And
Well, you'd like
from
to get an
everything I'm.
answer. If we can't, if there's crowdsourcing of funding or volunteers, or the DA doesn't have an issue with the money because that's never been the issue, then you'd like to get an answer if at some point the DNA isn't rerun. Why? What do we, what's going on here?
and
You know?
not to defend. This is a big case for us, but I can tell you right now that cold case unit has got every unsolved cold case in the Commonwealth of
Yeah.
Massachusetts. I think what just my opinion, a lot of states run a task force where they are not bring in other investigators from municipalities or retired.
Why
You know
not?
them, Diane. I think we'll talk about that
The
later.
other
I just
way. I'm trying to
We'll
point at
talk
Diane.
about
I don't
that
know.
later.
I don't know how to give out but there's so much retired talent out there that would be more than happy, keeps them in the game to assist in these cold cases. And I
Yep.
think that's the direction to give these amazing troopers that are doing this work a hand. And I think
Yep.
that's the direction.
I agree.
And I think they're going to start doing it. I can see some of it. I know behind the scenes it might be happening on another case. They're bringing someone in from a retired.
And then their
It's
main
becoming
focus is just that case too, which is amazing.
Yeah,
becoming much more
unfortunately, there's so
common.
many of them, and I know the other one is the Michelle Dower case. That we know Michael is the one that started me on this rabbit hole, and he passed away, and his sister was brutally murdered. Somebody that me and Diane grew up with, right? And she was brutally murdered in Chelsea, and that's an unsolved one, and that's a victim out there that I was told that's one that could be solved too. But there's so many of them.
No, and we do. I do want to reiterate that they're very. There's a lot of lot of cases that they have to solve, and I do. Joe brought this up today that some might be looking at, like, you look at these cases, and some might be not as old. Some might seem easier to solve than others. So what do you prioritize? How do you work that? That's, I don't know. I think I'm going to try to solve the maybe easier
Well, this
ones
is going to be
first.
solved. I know this is
Well,
going to happen.
I think you
This is going
prioritize
to
the
be
ones that
solved.
are,
Oh, it's
well,
coming. It's coming.
prioritize the ones that are at the forefront, that new information is coming and people are volunteering, and there are task force and people willing to take on other things like crowdfunding and sourcing and getting things out there. And then you say, okay, well, let's do this one since there's so much traction here right now. You strike while the iron's hot, and then if that doesn't work or it gets solved, then you move on to the next one and you make a prioritization list. But you got to start somewhere. You can't just keep saying we got too many. We can't
And,
solve
and I
one,
and I can't preach this enough to the young police officer that's on the beat. When you come across, lock down these scenes, lock them down. Evidence protection starts with the beat cop. And I've been fortunate to get trained in the military. So when you come across this, your job is to lock it down. Nobody goes in, and then these amazing lab techs that come out, and I'm not talking about the craziness that happened in Mass. We're talking about the person that does evidence collection. And now there's so much education on it. That is really the key to any of these crimes, is locking the scene down and preserving this evidence.
Well, going to the
Well,
scene.
just
Yeah.
well, yeah, maybe just look at the scene. Maybe find something.
Yeah, make
Yeah,
sure that,
maybe
or if you're not sure of the scene, make sure you go to any scene. There could be a possibility
no
of it
walk
being.
walk in the footsteps of the victim.
Well,
Walk
listen,
in the footsteps.
any good cop that's out there is that when you come across something, you just assume the worst, and your job is to do exactly that. So, anyways, we could talk forever. I'm not here to talk
I
about
just want to leave
operation.
it. I want to leave it at this, but Joe, because we were just speaking of this. Marlene's thoughts, and this is the mother of Susan. Marlene is now going on 84 years. Susan is death is now 34 years coming on September. And Marlene's thought process as far as cold cases is she would like to know why is my daughter's case, which is so old, and then with new technology and new buzz and what Carrie just said and all these things, why is hers not being looked at or scrutinized first ahead of ones that are maybe younger?
15 years, 10 years.
Time
Yeah.
is running out. Time is running out, and this is from a mother who is now tired.
Yeah.
The fight in her is turned into more. The pain is more present because as her fight, she's tiring and her body is aging. So we do. That is a valid point. Why is not this being? And we're not saying it's not, but if it isn't, let's prioritize this, please.
And thank God for you
Right.
two. Thank God for you two for being the voice now and bringing this. If we didn't have this and I didn't make the connection with the lieutenant and you, this thing would have been. We've been talking it. We never. It would have died.
It would be at the August Moon with scorpion bowls.
Yeah.
It's not even a church now. They built a high rise there. I was by it the other day.
Oh yeah, it's not even there anymore.
If
All
only
the
I
good
could go
places.
back to the August Moon with the
Same.
scorpion bowl.
Nope.
No name soup.
Not you, but we could, Joe.
Yeah,
Me
no,
and
there's
Diane could.
no.
You can't come.
No, I don't want to go back to those days. I had a lot of fun. I listen. I worked at detail. I did many details there, and that was my favorite detail, of course. Free food.
Oh, I'm sure you came across us underage people.
Listen, I was the last person in the world to arrest anybody for public drinking. I'd confiscate the beer and end up at my house, probably. I'm not saying it did,
As it should. As it
listen.
should. If that's the corruption, if that's the kind of corruption we approve of.
Listen,
we're down with that corruption.
Nobody had the best parties than the cops, and I think I had some legendary parties in the Pines.
Oh, that's funny.
First of all, the cops own the Reardons. What my first watering holes were. It's like
well, Mickey Reardons, because me and you grew up in the neighborhood. You were we grew up in that neighborhood. I get one better for you. Was the VFW down the street from your house, and
I didn't do the VFW.
Yeah, it was the parking lot, but behind the church. But here's the other one: the Orioles Nest, 1, 2, 3. Right,
oh, yeah.
Going in there, and then Mickey Reardon. I have a lot of fond memories of Mickey Reardon's. That was my place.
Well, listen, Winthrop was a dry town. The only thing we had was yacht club. So when we wanted to go drink, we would go to Revere.
Fancy.
Yeah,
Mickey Reardon's is a dive bar. I remember I was dating an older gentleman at the time, and worked and we walked in and he goes, God, I haven't been in here in like 20 years. He goes, I think that guy he was here 20 years
still
ago.
there. He's
still conversation.
Yeah.
It's the same conversation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All the time.
Listen, I love that neighborhood. I didn't want to leave that neighborhood. I still got family down that neighborhood, that Revere Street neighborhood. I mean, it's a special place in my heart. Diane, you know that more firefighters came out of that Revere Street and police officers. It was just a special time. My grandfather hung around the corner that I hung around and my mother hung around that corner. The Paul Revere School. I mean, it's just yeah. So, anyways, great talk down memory lane.
All right, so next week, Sean, we're going to go over some things like that, and then we'll take it from there, Carrie. We'll see what's up. But thank you, Joe. Yeah. And thank you for what you do and all the attention.
Do you want to just really quickly talk about the vigil?
Yeah, talk about
I know we've gone over, but...
Yeah, so September 12th, and there's going to be a press release coming out. September 12th at 12 p.m., East Boston, Constitution Beach. I applied for the permit, the insurance, media. The press release will be sent out to all media. I know the Boston Globe will be there. I know former investigators will be there. Current investigators will be there. Family, friends, and this is a vigil for the anniversary of Sue's death. And we hope to have a few speakers, a prayer, moment of silence, of course. It's by the airport, and we want to remember Sue on her 34th anniversary of her death and bring, hopefully we can just bring some more attention and awareness to this. And hopefully I reached out to Clear Channel about donating a billboard, and we are reaching out to a representative from Delta. It would be wonderful if they could come just to reiterate the reward to the public, even though we know The Globe has already reached out to them. Marlene has the paperwork, and law enforcement also does, that the reward of $250,000 is still active. So if you have any information in this case that leads to arrest and conviction, you could $250,000. And we all know the statute of limitations is up on many of these crimes. And if you can come forward, you can talk. It's time. It's almost
It is time.
34 years. It's time. If you know something, say something.
Yeah, we're gonna do. It's coming. I can feel it, and I got a funny feeling. I hope that this is my hope, and my prayer is that the state police will come up with a surprise before the anniversary, that they're behind the scenes not saying it. And I really would love.
So
I would love to see, Lieutenant Murphy and Bob and his team, and
Me too.
I would love to see him get a win on this, and I would love to see this happen.
I'd
And
love
that
to see Sean
wouldn't-
be
Sean,
I'd
I was
love
thinking of
to see
Sean.
Sean.
and
Sean, and wouldn't that be so nice if they're like, oh yeah,
Oh.
okay, we're doing it behind the scenes, and I honestly do. I think because the work that you guys have done in this, maybe it's going to happen. I'm not saying it is, but wouldn't that be nice?
I don't even know if my heart could take it, but I will risk it.
that would be the best. Oh my God.
We can go to the Kowloons afterwards. I can have a salsa water. We'll go down
We can have a scorpion.
on the beach.
I'm not allowed for a scorpion bowl either. I can't have
On the beach. We could. There's a Kowloons down on the beach.
Oh yeah, that's right. The new tiki bar.
The
Well,
beach
let's
is amazing.
manifest that. Manifest an amazing surprise outcome, or some just more information, or an arrest, a conviction. Well,
Yeah.
conviction will take time, but an arrest in this case, an indictment. Let's do it, and I
It's coming.
fully believe it's happening. And then
It's
we're gonna
coming.
go to the Kowloon, and Joe's buying. Joe's buying.
Yeah.
Sounds
no,
good to me. Joe, you can wear your yoga pants.
No yoga pants for me. You will never. They've been trying my two partners yoga.
Me and Diane
Rexy.
will wear them for you.
No, and
we'll
we're
wear
gonna have them two on too. You want to talk about a fascinating conversation? You got to have them two.
I know. We do need to. Before we.
You would
you
love
know,
them. They're
Before
two,
this ends, we do
they're,
need to have them on.
they're
Just-
absolutely. They drive me crazy. They're absolutely amazing. And what they could tell you, what their work in mental health, it blows mind blowing. And they teach me.
You have a
every
lot
day.
of women in your life driving you crazy, Joe.
Strong women. Yeah, and
Yeah.
one that's doing comedy that was my partner, the legendary Amy O'Hara, that I just did comedy with the other night, and she's
Yeah, I
amazing.
saw.
You got to check her stuff out. She's out of her mind.
Yeah, I saw. She's funny. She's funny. She's good.
She's the best. All right, thank you. I know.
All right, thanks everybody, and say bye to Joe. Well, we can close the show right here, right? So
Yeah,
let's
I don't think we need to say anything else. We've said all we needed to say.
And we're gonna be in touch with me for the next one. So
I will, but thanks for joining us, and cheers to Sue, and
Yep.
cheers to.
I have water.
Staying alive.
Staying up. You have water.
Have a great night.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.